been out for a while, but now I want to show you why the Caddx Kangaroo is my favorite micro FPV camera for my toothpick builds. Um, Not too long ago I mentioned that the Runcam Racer Nano 2 was my favorite camera. That's because we didn't have much of a choice back then. Now we have things like the Foxeer Predator Micro and a couple other ones, and a very popular one is the Runcam Nano 2, which is a good camera, but I still do not like the red tint from there. In certain lighting conditions, that camera has too much of a red tint, and I don't know, that redness drives me mad. I don't know about you, but it drives me mad. But if you're flying in really good conditions, the Runcam Nano is pretty good. However, this camera I like for overall conditions. It seems to do well in almost anything, any condition that I've flown in. Now, when I first saw this camera, I think I saw a review from Albert Kim and a couple other people, and I thought, yeah, I'm not going to use a camera that looks terrible. The pixel explosion, the shimmering effect, everything looked terrible. But then I saw somebody mention that this camera has the same sensor as the Ratel, or Ratel, however you pronounce that. And I thought, wow, I've been waiting on a smaller version of the Ratel to come out, and that would be my favorite camera. So I figured that this is really the Ratel that we were waiting for our micros. Now, yes, this camera does have a lot of pixel explosion. It has shimmering. It looks like it's a bit too sharp, but let me tell you, when you look at the DVR from this, yes, you're going to see that. When you're flying with this, it feels amazing. I don't know, maybe it's the goggles I have, the old Commanders, but this feels really, really amazing to fly. And this has more sharpness, more resolution than the Runcam Racer. I don't get too much of that like weird cloudy look at certain times of day. I don't know if it's because of the lens, but this camera looks much sharper than the Runcam Racer Nano 2. Now, there's something with these cameras that I'd like to talk about. So sometimes the sensors of these cameras are not really, they're not like 640 by 480 or whatever the resolution is for SD, standard definition analog video. These sensors are sometimes 720p sensors or something, and they just kind of conform them to fit the protocol of analog video. And I think sometimes that like the TV lines or whatever it is, the pixels of the sensors, they overlap or something to make the image look really soft. Now, I find that the cameras, like these little all-in-one cameras that we have for like the tiny whoops, they seem to have a very, whatever they put out from the camera is like the pixels just match. It just matches the analog video, and that's why you don't see that shimmering effect. I don't know if you've ever like looked out your window, if you have like one of those bug nets on your window, you know, the meshes, and you try to look at like something outside. That's kind of how analog video looks, because it really is a bunch of lines going across the screen. So the resolution is what really makes these cameras crappy. So what I want to say is that I run this in PAL. A lot of the cameras that look crappy, I run them in PAL, and PAL looks a lot better because PAL gives you more lines of resolution going across the screen this way. That's the difference. So when you switch from NTSC to PAL, you will see the image kind of like, well, not the image, the OSD of your Betaflight kind of gets squished upwards, because you get this extra row of, I guess, pixels or resolution lines along the bottom. And that makes this camera look way better. Now you're thinking, okay, PAL is not going to work because PAL has less frame rate, but you're not going to see that in your goggles, because you're actually seeing 50 frames per second in your goggles, as opposed to 60 frames from NTSC. When you record PAL though, you get 25, and that's why it looks so crappy when you're watching back DVR. So this is the build that I have showing you here. This is not anything special at all. It's got lots of vibrations. It's just really not optimized. I haven't taken any time to optimize it. I just have a Diamond VTX with the onboard DVR, and that's why I decided to put this in here. This camera has really good night handling. It just seems to look really much better in the night, especially better than the Runcam Racer, that's for sure. And yeah, I really love it. Usually I swap the lens out. Now the heaviest bit of these cameras is always the lens, but this lens looks quite small. This is the lens that I usually use on all my other cameras, and it's much smaller than like the lenses from like the Runcam and all these. You can see it's much smaller. But I don't think I like the lens that comes with this. This is not the glass lens. There's a version with a glass lens that's much better. But anyway, I will leave it for now because it looks pretty good. I won't be going through the features on the on-screen display because it basically has the same type of on-screen display like the Racer Nano. But I just will show you the weight here. 3.9 grams, which is a bit heavy, but I must say that there is a plastic covering in the back here that I'm sure you can remove. And again, maybe the lens has a lot of weight in it. So it's not the lightest, but for those of you who might want to make it lighter, you can. Let me show you the difference here. This is the lens I use on all my other builds. I'm sure I've showed you this. This is a very cheap Banggood lens. Kind of hard to put in there, but it does thread in there. So the lens, this lens is 0.9 grams. Sometimes I believe it was a bit lighter. I guess it is 0.9. Right, so let's call this a 1 gram lens. The regular lenses that comes with your EOS or other cameras is like 2 grams. So actually you're saving like a gram. But yeah, you can save a gram if you like using this lens. But maybe not, because maybe this lens is not that heavy. Anyway guys, just showing you my new favorite camera. I really suggest trying this one out. It's got a really good price point. It's much cheaper than the Runcam Racer Nano 2 and the Foxhair Predator Nano, but not as cheap as like a Runcam Nano 2. But it's somewhere there in the middle, and I think this is a very good camera for the price, for what you get with the dynamic range, with everything. So there you go. Happy flying.